Long ago, in ancient Antioch, a new way of living began to take root. Imagine walking into a Christian home in Antioch or Syria near the end of the 1st century. The apostles who knew Jesus are passing away, and local communities are growing rapidly. How do you teach a Gentile convert, someone raised in a world of pagan temples, magic, and social stratification, what it truly means to follow the way? The Didache, or the teaching of the 12 apostles, was written precisely for this moment. Serving as Christianity's first practical manual, it translates Jesus' teachings into a concrete guidebook for living, worshiping, and organizing a local church. 2 paths were laid out before every soul, choosing life or darkness. The moral foundation, choosing the way of life. The instruction begins before a candidate ever touches baptismal water. Drawing on Jewish ethical traditions and the Sermon on the Mount, the Didache presents life as a fundamental choice between the way of life and the way of death. The Great Commandments: love God and love your neighbor as yourself. The Golden Rule: do not do to another what you would not want done to you. Radical holiness: to walk the way of life is to love God and neighbor, pray for one's enemies, and practice radical generosity. In stark contrast to the surrounding Roman culture, it explicitly forbids practices like abortion, infanticide, sorcery, and exploitation of the poor. The way of death, meanwhile, is painted as a self-destructive path of greed, hypocrisy, arrogance, and cold-heartedness. Ethics were not treated as optional advice. They were the essential foundation of Christian identity. Through the washing of water, old burdens fell away for a fresh start. Once a convert grasped this moral way of life, they were welcomed into the sacramental rhythms of the Church. Baptism. The Didache outlines the earliest known rubrics for Christian baptism. While running cold water was the ideal, it reveals a remarkably practical spirit. If deep water wasn't available, pouring water over the head 3 times in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit was fully valid. To prepare, both the candidate and the leader fasted for a day or 2. Faith became a rhythmic heartbeat, whispered in prayer 3 times a day. Daily rhythms: believers were instructed to fast on Wednesdays and Fridays and to pray the Lord's Prayer 3 times a day, weaving devotion directly into the cadence of daily life. Scattered like grain, the people were gathered into one bread and one body in the Holy Eucharist. Celebrated within a full communal love feast, the Eucharist was strictly reserved for the baptized. The prayers preserved in the Didache echo ancient Jewish table blessings, Birkat Hamazon, thanking God over the cup and bread for the holy vine of David and the spiritual food and drink revealed through the Lord's Supper. True wisdom was found not in loud words, but in the humility of service. As the early movement expanded, it faced a very human problem: itinerant preachers traveling from town to town. How could a small house church tell a genuine apostle from a con artist? The Didache offers sharp, common-sense discernment. A traveling prophet who stayed more than 2 or 3 days, asked for money, or failed to practice what he preached was to be turned away as a fraud. Furthermore, as the original charismatic apostles died off, the document instructs local congregations to elect their own proven, humble, and trustworthy bishops and deacons to lead weekly Sunday worship, settle personal disputes privately, and keep the community unified. The Didache closes on a note of reminding believers that the hour of Christ's return remains unknown. It urges the Church to keep its lamps burning. It warns of coming tribulations, false prophets, and a world deceiver before the final return of Christ on the clouds. This ancient teaching flows through time, passed from one heart to the next. The Didache is a precious historical bridge. It captures the exact moment Christianity transitioned from a spontaneous, Jewish-led movement into an organized, enduring faith across the Greco-Roman world, showing us a church grounded in deep morality, flexible in practice, and united in hope. Didache is a bridge document, links the spontaneous, spirit-led era of the New Testament with the formal, institutional church of the 2nd century. Pragmatic flexibility shows that early Christians valued theological standards like the Trinitarian formula while remaining practical when physical resources like running water were limited. Preserves a snapshot of the Eucharist when it was still celebrated as a full communal fellowship meal. Agape demonstrates how the early movement carved out a distinct identity separate from both pagan culture and traditional Jewish practices. Faith, as the Lord taught and as the apostles preached,